Okay, we're making 1 apple pie, so we always use Granny Smith apples. I like them best. There are others, but if you use other baking apples, they need to be very crisp. But Granny Smith is my go-to apple.
And
I'm going to use 5 because of the size. Sometimes if they're a little bit smaller, this is a medium apple, it's normal size apple. So I'll use 5. Sometimes if they're a little smaller, I'll use 6. Sometimes you can get great big Granny Smith apples, and then I'll use 4. So the first thing we're going to do is peel them and core them. We've got our peeled, so now we have our peeled apples. We're going to quarter them, cut them in quarters, and then we will, after we've cut them in quarters, we're going to take the core out of them in quarters like this. Okay, if you don't have a food processor, then you can slice your apples real thin, you know, with a knife. So they should be thin like this.
okay.
Food processor, you need to have this slicer. So then I just put however many I can fit in here, which is usually about 4 to 5 quarters, depending on how top one. Slice them down.
So vertical versus horizontal slices don't matter.
It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Just get them sliced up.
Okay.
This, first I usually taste it. They're not super duper sour. So, depends on how sour they are. But this is about, so you use about 1.25 cups to 1.5 cups of sugar, depending on how sour the apples are. This one's probably about, I don't measure real well, it's probably between 1.5 cups and 1.25 cups and 1.25 cups. Then you need 3 tablespoons of flour.
Is this all-purpose?
This all-purpose flour, 3 not level, kind of heaping tablespoons of flour. That. So we have about 1.25 cups to 1.5 cups of sugar, 3 heaping tablespoons of flour, and a rounded teaspoon of cinnamon that we're going to mix up and we're going to put into the apples. Now, be sure and mix your flour and your sugar together. They need to be well incorporated together, because if you just put flour straight into the apple, it's going to clump. But if you mix it with the sugar, it won't clump. So I mix them up real good to the apples, and you mix it up. Kind of a little bit of toss, get it mixed. And then you're going to let it set. Altogether, you're going to let it set for like between 15 to 20 minutes, and then you'll have to stir it periodically, because you're giving the apples time to juice up. And you'll see what I mean by that as it goes along. Now if you were making your dough from scratch, you would start working on that. Well, we're not doing it from scratch today. We're going to do the already made. Pillsbury is good, but so is H-E-B brand. It's just as good. Sugar right here. See it? Right there?
Yeah.
So you mix again, just about 4 or 5 times while it's sitting here juicing. See how it's starting to juice up?
Yeah.
So you just reach down there with your spatula and pull that and stir it up real well. You ready? Also, as soon as you got these, you put this out, the sugar and the cinnamon and the stuff in, and you're let them setting, and you're get starting before you start to get your crust ready. Turn your oven on. Oven at 400. So get it preheated. Okay, now we're going to have a good look at the apples. They're about ready. They're juiced up real nicely here. So we'll just let them set a little bit longer, and as we get our crust into the pan. Now it's a prepared crust, so, but I also like to roll it out just a little bit because make it a little better shape. Roll it out on wax paper. I could roll it out on this too, it's not a problem. It's just a little less cleanup for me. So it's kind of a little wonky. So I'll use my roller, kind of roll it out a little larger. And I like to use my rolling pin to roll it on to transfer it to my dish. Try to get it centered, not always easy. There we go. Another thing that I didn't say is I've put aluminum foil on the lower rack because my pies always run over, and this saves me a lot of cleanup of my oven because it really makes a mess. This is ready to put the apples in. So mix her up. Start putting the apples into the shell of the pie shell. And I like all of that juice going in there. And that juice with the flour in, the flour is the thickening agent. So that's why you have to use the flour. So that juice will become a nice binding agent in the pie. And it's yummy. So I like to get all my apples and all my juice in there. And then I usually even clean fingers, kind of even it out around there. And
It's stacking up pretty high right now.
yeah, but remember when they cook down. So now at this point you need some butter. Use about 2 tablespoons of butter and dot it around there. So 2 tablespoons would be, that part, and then it's marked on the papers of the butter. So if you feel like you need that, fine. I just do what I think is enough. Maybe it's a little more. That's okay. Butter never hurts. May hurt the cholesterol, but it sure tastes good. Alrighty. So that's in there. Don't forget the butter step. I do that sometimes. Then I have to peel the top back, make a mess, and stick that butter in there. Or make slits in there and put butter in it. You have to put slits in your top crust anyhow to vent it.
1 second.
I'm sorry, I'm up on it. So now I'm getting the other And again, I'm going to, just like before, I'm going to roll it out a little bit, get a little bit larger and a little bit more even. Again, I like to kind of use this to transfer. Okay, and we're going to start to transfer, try to get it even around. All right, pretty good. Now what we're going to do is tuck the top layer of your crust under the bottom layer. So try to make a good, and then we'll go back and pinch it to make the seal. But first I like to roll it under all the way around, and then I'll start to pinch it for the seal. And from my side. So you just kind of take your fingers and your thumb and you start pinching. There are tools out there that you can run around it with. Yeah, my mom and my grandma did this. This is what I do. I don't make it fancy, I make it tasty. To help keep it from leaking, I'm not obviously a real good pincher because mine always leaks and runs over, and that's why I always get a messy oven. That's why I put aluminum foil, not on the bottom of your oven. Put it on the bottom rack, and the other, the pie goes on the top rack, which is in the middle of the oven.
Okay.
All right, now, like I said, that's done. Now you need to vent it to let the steam out. So all you do is poke holes in it, and that lets your steam out. All right, now the last step, people put an egg wash on it. They think it looks pretty, puts a little glaze. My grandmother and my mom never did that. What we did is sprinkle the top with a little cinnamon. Ooh, you gotta be real careful. That one's gonna be real dark, so I just kind of tap it lightly. Get the cinnamon on the pie. And then this toasts up and looks real pretty. Then I take some sugar and sprinkle sugar on it. And that's what makes it pretty in my mind. I like it like this. Now, a new invention has come out in the past 10, 15 years. This is a crust cover, edge cover. So you put it on this. I used to put aluminum foil and pinch it on around there. A lot of work, pain in the rear. This is great. It will keep your crust edges from burning before the pie is finished, and you don't have to take it off. The aluminum foil, I had to take it off about 20 minutes before the pie finished. This, I can leave it, it colors up, cooks up very nicely, like this. So put that in the oven, 400 degrees. For about an hour. Set the timer so you won't forget.
Exactly 1 hour?
1 hour, yep.
How do you check whether, so 1 hour should be enough, but how do you check?
1 hour is enough. You just look at the color on the top, make sure it's toasty brown, the way you like it. And you can kind of pick it up and look at the bottom of it. That's what, cause it's glass, and see if it looks brown, toasty a little bit on the bottom and not white. Then it's not completely done. You need to bake it a little more. But usually an hour will give it to you.
All right.
If your oven is properly set for the
400.
Well, yeah, what's the word for it, Indra? It's correlated, or it's not the word. Sometimes your oven's a little cold or a little hot. So you gotta know your oven.
All right, thank you.
Okay.